Yes.
You don't need this little one.
Yeah, we don't need
All that.
it.
Where's the money?
It's interesting, before we started the program, I was sharing a conversation that I had with the chief of police in Deal. Each summer, we do an event called a Midnight Festival, where we have, last year, about 1,800 young adults show up at the parking lot of the Deal Casino at midnight on a Saturday night to have their version of Wildwood, Seaside Heights, rides, games. The chief of police was asking me, would it be possible for you to do that 2 or 3 times this summer? And I said, why? He said, it's the best night of the summer. There's no alcohol. There's no drugs. We know where everybody is. Everybody's having good, clean fun in a safe, amazingly positive environment. If we were somehow able to take that kind of bubble wrap and wrap everybody in it for the summer, how amazing and how comforting would that be? Unfortunately, that's not really very realistic. A, because there's no way on earth we would be able to put together events like that every day. But more importantly, even though the summer is by far the best, I think, time of the year, it's also the most challenging time of the year for all of our children, regardless of how old they are. And I think the goal of tonight's program is to try to make us as aware as possible of what some of those potential pitfalls are and how we can do the best as parents, as community leaders, to try to protect our children as best as possible, and more importantly, be there when some of those things happen to make sure that we mitigate some of the damage and some of the risk. So first, I'd like to thank Susan and the MHR team for putting together this beautiful program. For those of you who don't know, the Mental Health Resource is an amazing division within SBH. They do referrals outside of SBH to specialists in many different fields. They do educational programs, support groups. Up until about 20 years ago, amazingly, there were no mental health issues in the community. Isn't that shocking? And then once SBH created the mental health resource, it was safe and it was okay for people that were struggling with the things we know they were struggling with all along to come to SBH and get the help that they need. So we want to thank Susan and her team for providing that amazing resource for the community and for getting this illustrious panel together this evening. I'm going to do my best to introduce them, but I am going to announce in advance that there's no way that I'm getting all of the letters before and after your names correctly, so you'll forgive me. I don't know if I have it. Oh, I do have it in order. Okay, cool. Raquel Ashkenazi from Yeshiva Prep. I don't have it in order. Alan Esses, an SBH founder representing Hatzalah. Dr. Eti Mizrahi from Flatbush High School. Shira Moseri from Hillel Yeshiva. Isaac Seton from Magen David Yeshiva High School. Jessica Steinmetz from SAFE. Our own Ratzon Golian from here at SBH. And this evening's program, cheers. And our program will be moderated by the director of our MHR program. We are very, very lucky and blessed to have her not only for this evening, but heading MHR, Dr. Susan Schmuck.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. This was really a labor of love, this event. As someone who worked in guidance departments in Yeshiva for many, many years, I always wanted, it was like my dream to collaborate all the schools together. You know, I'd meet with parents and they'd say, oh, you know, that doesn't happen in our school, that's the other school, or this is not, you know, with my kids' friends. And I would speak to the, you know, wonderful guidance people in the other schools, and we were all facing the same issues. We all had the same, you know, our students were facing the same struggles. So to get everyone together, working together, collaborating. It was really such a pleasure. I know how wonderful, if you chose this profession, believe me, you have a great heart and all you want to do is help. And I'm so thankful to all of you to be here together. So I'll just tell you a little bit about what we're going to do. Each panelist is going to speak a little about a topic that is near and dear to them. And this was sort of our wish list to tell parents, We work with these kids all year long and we do everything we can, and then the summer happens and we're like, so this is just everyone speaking about what they, wish they could tell parents. And then we have some questions that were sent in ahead of time, and we'll have opportunities if anyone else has questions. So our first speaker is Raquel Ashkenazi from Yeshiva Prep.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Before Halim, for hosting what is a very important and much needed event. I wanted to start by providing a framework of what is risky behaviors and why exactly are our teens engaging in them. So when we think of risky behaviors, I think oftentimes we think of experimentations with substances like drugs and alcohol. And although that is true, risky behaviors really extend far beyond that. When we think of risky behaviors, in essence, it's important to think of any behaviors that might lead to lifelong implications, such as addiction and other mental health challenges. So that might extend to gambling, risky sexual behaviors, just anything that really has to lend into restricted eating behaviors, bullying, and just to name a few. I find that when working with teens especially, it's important to tap into why it is that they're doing what they're doing. I find that many times teens might say, I wish my parent would understand me. And ironically, all parents were once teens. So when working with teenagers, it's often to understand why it is they're doing what they're doing, why they might be thinking what they're doing. That oftentimes increases our empathy, reduces our judgment, and leads to a much more richer communication when working with our teenagers. Ultimately, when doing that and trying to understand really where it is they're coming from, that active listening really lends into realizing that teens and parents are really on the same team working toward the same goal. A lot of times people will ask, why do all these stories come out in the summertime? Is it a coincidence? I don't find this happening as much during the winter months. And the truth is that teenagers live extremely structured lives during those winter school months. They wake up super early, they come to school, they come home later, they might then have extracurricular activities or driver's ed courses, or just things that really keep their lives very much structured. And then that structure, it's important to realize, is where our teenagers thrive. Not only do teenagers thrive with structure, but all age ranges really thrive on structure. That structure lends to predictability, and knowing what to expect can give a greater sense of control. When teens feel like they're in control, they ultimately feel safe, and they know what to predict. Come the summer months, that structure is really not the same. And that could lead to a very scary feeling. Kids not knowing what to expect or what to predict might lead to an increase in risky behavior. What might be helpful is to find a time to sit down with your teen and carve out sort of a mock schedule to allow them to feel a greater sense of control, to realize what they'll expect and what can come out in those future months. Adolescence in general could be a very challenging time in teens, where it's a time where they're trying to form their own identity and to really go through a process called individuation, where they're trying to form out who they are separate from their parents. Your child might be engaging in risky behaviors simply to gain attention from their peers. We all know that peer pressure is extremely common during teenage years. It's also interesting to note that teenagers, more than any other group, kid or adult, are more susceptible to peer pressure. When teenagers lack the tools for socialization, they might be engaging in risky behaviors because they might not have those tools to socialize in a healthy way. Teenagers might also be engaging in risky behaviors to get attention from the adults in their life as well, while realizing that negative attention is still a form of attention that they might be seeking. A lot of times, teens might make poor choices, and at instinct, we want to say, why did you do such a thing? What were you thinking? But it's important to remember that those statements can be very judgmental and also are using an adult frame of mind to evaluate a teenager's decision-making process. It's important to realize that developmentally, teenagers don't have the decision-making capacities that we do as adults. Their frontal lobe, which is the area in the brain that controls their decision-making process, is actually not formed until the age of 25. That means that even a 20-year-old might have trouble making the best decisions. Does that mean that we give our teens a free pass? Hardly not. I think that it's important to realize that we can role play with our teens to try to come up with realistic solutions realistic situations that they might be faced in, and focus on what stressors or what techniques they could be using to face those situations, to remove that here and now, which our teenagers tend to think in, and to think of long-term applications, like what would a consequence to our action be, or what are the pros and cons of dealing with this. That effective communication can really go a long way. With that, I'd pass the microphone to S.E. Mr. Ahmed, who's going to continue to talk about communication.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. So we're going to take a little bit of a closer look into communication. The most important thing is establish those lines of communication and keep them open. It might look like your teens don't want to talk to you, they don't want to hear from you, they don't want to share with you. I promise you they do. Even when it looks like they really, really don't, they do. We all know that social networks and peer groups right now are the most important thing that's central in their lives. So we're not going to be able to combat that, nor should we. But as parents, we really are the anchor for our teenagers, and nothing leaves a teen feeling as unsafe and as unmoored as a relationship without boundaries. So communication really, like Raquel was saying, sets the stage for all the topics that we're going to hear about tonight. We actually met last week so that we could figure out who should go when and what we should all speak about. It was so much fun. It was so stimulating. We realized that we could all talk probably for hours because there's so much to say. It was such a lovely experience, I have to say. But I figured we would take some concrete practical strategies for communication to put down a sort of like a baseline that you can apply to the model of every single topic that's going to come up. So when you're thinking about communication, number one, just be present. Listen, just be there. Try not to be disappointed if they're not volunteering information about their day. They might not. Try not to be disappointed if your well-meaning questions are met with one-word answers or maybe a grunt. We might get that. But just be there. The most important message that they should be hearing from you is, when you're ready, I'm here. On your terms, I'm here. You can tell me anything. And as Raquel said, without judgment. That's a very important piece, that they should never feel that they're going to bring us something and then we're going to be judgmental about it, preachy about it, or I told you so about it. They need to know that when they're ready to speak, we're here to listen. So that's number one. Next is pick your times wisely. The same way when we're rushing to get ready for work, or we're like trying to get all the little kids to bed and we're frazzled and we just had a long day, or we just walked in the door, we really have to go to the bathroom because we didn't eat all day, or get to the restroom all day. It's important to try to pick the time that you think will yield the best results. It's often suggested that driving is a good time. I actually did one of those myself this week, driving in a car, there's nowhere else to go. You're not even making direct eye contact, it feels not so threatening, you're just chill, you're having a relaxed conversation. Other ideas are pick something that you like to do, get Starbucks or Carvel, go to a game, try to spend, it's so hard. We always say like one-on-one time is so important, and it is, we know it's so hard. Whatever snatches of time you're able to get, that's a good time. Another idea that I love is having our teens teach us how to do something. So like anytime I don't know how to do something on my phone, which is a lot of times and I'm not that old, I ask my kids and they always know much quicker than I do. So that's a nice time and a nice moment to connect. Just even like hearing a comment, like a throwaway comment that they make and then like remarking on it or commenting on it or asking a follow-up question, even if it's not sort of like a deep one-on-one conversation, that's good too. Anything goes. Speaking of timing, I find it's important to acknowledge to your teens that you don't fully understand the world in which they live. Like how many times, like you said, like you don't understand, if only my parents understood. It's important to acknowledge to them that times are changing fast. As a parent, as a professional, I myself can't keep up. I could say probably the same about everybody at the table and in this room. So to say like, okay, I don't fully understand the world of cell phones and social media and technology and group chats, but you know what? I've had a lot of experiences that were shared. I've had a lot of emotional experiences that were shared. I certainly have felt these things. I've certainly been excluded. I certainly felt tempted to try something that probably wasn't the best decision. So meeting them where they're at while acknowledging that we don't fully get their experience helps to show our human side and that we are there to connect with them. When you're listening, listen actively. Raquel, I think you mentioned this, sort of, we all know what active listening looks like when they're talking to you, be engaged, focus, eye contact, lean in, ask a question, comment. It's important to remember that when they come and confide in you, like let's say they're having an issue, they're having something hard that they're going through, and they're actually confiding in you, like we want to rush, we want to like save the day, we want to solve the problem. It's not always problem solving, it's not always advice that they're looking for. Sometimes it's just a listening ear. Sometimes it's just being there without judgment. So I find it helps to ask, like, how can I help you the most right now? Like, this sounds hard, how can I help you the most? Do you want me to just listen? Do you want my thoughts and advice? Should we problem solve and like talk out different scenarios together? Do you need me to intervene? Because sometimes it might get to a level where they're struggling so much that they're actually looking for us as parents to help or intervene. So try to feel out where they are and connect with them in that way. Another piece, it's funny, I hear parents talk about this sometimes, set realistic expectations. Even those of us that have wonderful relationships with our teenagers are not gonna hear every single detail of their lives, nor should we. That's not our role as parents. They're not going to share every single thing. If they do, great. If they don't, that's okay. Try not to have those expectations, and also try, if you feel some sort of disappointment or like, I can't believe they didn't share that with me, try to keep those on the side just because we want to be realistic in what we expect from our teens. With the active listening piece, screens away, phones away, AirPods not in ears. So important, so important. I cannot tell you how many times we have teenagers in our offices in school say, like, they tell me that I have to put my phone away during dinner, but then they're always on the phone, they're always answering, one more work email, they're not looking at me when I try to talk to them, like they're not listening to me, how am I supposed to be able to engage with them? We actually run a program called Parent Senior Breakfast every year for our seniors. Some of you in this room have attended. One parent this year said something in my session that I loved. They're like, they always find you at the worst time, like you're getting ready to go to sleep, or like you didn't eat anything all day and you just sat down and you're like, oh. Try, phone away, book away, and focus. I know, it's so hard. Just a couple more. You can't go to a parenting talk and not hear the word modeling. So like I had to put it in there. Modeling is key. Actions speak louder than words. So the way you want our kids to be able to communicate with you and with others in the world is the way that you want to communicate with other people, and you want them to see you communicating. So whether it's with them, whether it's with their siblings, your spouse, literally anyone in this world, they're watching everything. They hear everything. I want to go so far as to say, even the way you speak to yourself, you know what I mean? Like when you criticize yourself for doing something and you're using harsh language, they hear. So one important piece of that is when you're having a talk with them and like they did something wrong or you're upset about something, like even though your blood might be boiling, you might be so upset, you can express that you're disappointed, model calm. So modeling is important. And then before we shift to our son, just want to say a word about limits, expectations, boundaries, rules. We all know this is important. We almost did this event in June, and it's so nice that we ended up doing it in May. It gives us plenty of time to talk to our teens before summer comes. You don't want to get into summer and then realize, like, oh, yeah, they're coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning, they clearly didn't get the curfew memo, because there was no curfew memo because you didn't have that conversation. So taking the time before the summer to sort of lay out, I love what you said before, that like sample, schedule / routine, talk about, and this goes for anything, whether curfews, socializing with the opposite gender, parties, driving, drinking, anything that you might think of in terms of what summer might bring, have that conversation, get their buy-in. This doesn't mean letting them set the terms. It doesn't mean them saying, I think 4 o'clock's a reasonable time, and you're like, yeah, sure, so you could get those bagels. It means hearing what they have to say and maybe compromising sometimes and not compromising other times, but then explaining why and having a conversation with them that makes them feel like they're partners. You said something on the Zoom that I love, so I have to repeat it. A teenager that feels responsible for a teenager without limits feels responsible for their own life. I'm like, that's scary as a grown-up to be responsible for my own life. Imagine a teen. So we want to help them feel safe by establishing those limits, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, Etty's talking about limits, and one of the things I really help parents do is is set proper limits. What is the role of a parent? Ultimately, the role of a parent is to help raise our children in a safe and healthy manner while developing them. The way we do that, though, is with setting limits, especially with teenagers. Now, a lot of parents come into my office, and the first thing they say, and I really feel them, is they feel out of control. Like, up until 9, 10, 11, you could limit. What do they eat? Where do they go? Who do they play with? But then at a certain point, something takes over them, right? And this is what the psychological mandate that we're talking about, where they have to change, right? They have to now become their own individual. So from some point between ages 10, 11, and 21, 22, they have to become independent, right? As we said, it was individuation. So now the problem is like this. So you are given a job to control your teen. But how can you actually control your teen? You can't, really. So it becomes a frustrating job. And as responsible parents, you guys are here on a regular Tuesday night, here to help figure out how to best parent your teenagers. So you're here, you're responsible, you want to do your job, right? It does not make it easy if you have somebody else fighting you to do your job. So here you are, you're given a responsibility to make sure your kids are safe. But how could you do your responsibility? And that makes parents feel out of control. So I get that a lot. I feel out of control. I don't know what to do. I'm trying so hard, but I can't be in control. So control is a very hot topic sort of word, because the question really is, should you be in control? As parents, are you supposed to be in control of your children? Who wants to venture to maybe say yes or no? Tricky question. I'm going to say it straight up. Trick question. The answer really is, you should not be in control. You cannot possibly be in control. So we have to sort of give up the idea that I have to control my teenager, right? I know it's hard for us to hear because we want to feel like we're doing our job and we are in control. But the truth is, how are you going to actually control them? You're not going to lock them up to bed. What are you going to do? Right? So they're going to do things that kind of, the way they operate is they're because of the psychological mandate, they want to be in control. They're fighting for that. And that's why you become a bit of a threat to their independence. You are a direct threat. I'm trying to become independent. Who am I trying to individuate from? Who am I trying to become independent from? From you. So you are the threat. Congratulations. So my point is, so don't take that as a bad thing. Now, do we want to squash their independence? Obviously not. The goal is we want to build independence. We're not trying to squash it. We're not trying to say to them, hey, you want to be in control? No, not you. You're not allowed to be in control. Because what are we doing? We want to raise a kid that's going to be independent. We want them to individuate. But we're sort of, in their minds, in the way. So this is where the interplay, the art of parenting comes in. The art of negotiation, the art of being able to hear them out, like we were saying. The art of listening to them and coming up with things that we're comfortable with, but at the same time, that is limited. Right? Just like a child that wants to walk. We're not just going to say, oh, you're one now? Okay, now go walk, and shove them across the room. That's not going to happen, right? First we say, okay, you know what? How about you stand up a little bit? And then we hold your hands, we walk a couple steps. Okay, great. And then maybe you walk from here to daddy. Okay, walk to daddy. Okay, right? It's a process. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. You got to see your child, you got to see their age, you got to see what they're capable of, and they have to build that trust within the limits of what you're setting for them. We call that healthy tension. Just what they're able to do, we're going to encourage them to do a little bit more, right? So in terms of limits, this is our job. Our job is to create limits for them. This is what I always tell parents. Your job is create limits, set limits. Not make sure they keep it. Whose job is it to keep limits? Theirs. We go crazy because we think it's our job for them to keep limits. I'm telling you, no, it's not your job for them to keep limits. It's their job, and they need to know that. So you set the limit, right? So you say, here's this box over here. This is your limit. You got to act within this limit. Now, I'm going to warn you right now. Do you think they're going to do everything within here? Absolutely not. They're going to test you here, test you here, test you. Now, if you're good and you confront it, you're going to have a picture of some semblance of control. Okay? So it's imperfect control. They're still going to do it because that's what they're going to do. But if you have no limits, what's going to happen? It'll be everywhere and anywhere. So your job is set limits. Our mistake, which I find a lot of parents, is they give up. They see that it's not working, and they're like, oh, I did a rule, I said a rule. Okay, and what happened? I don't know, they didn't listen, and they give up. So your job is set limits, but you can't give up, right? Disobedience does not mean the rule is not working. Disobedience is their form of control, their form of individuation. Be prepared for that, and it's okay. But at the same time, it is your job to make rules and limits that will try as much as possible to keep them safe. That will try as much as possible to keep them in some semblance of a safe structure. So, does that mean that you sometimes have to make unpopular choices? Absolutely. And be okay with that. It's okay as a parent to make an unpopular choice. You don't have to think that you have to be the cool mom that, oh, I let my kids stay up the latest. No. If you think you're not comfortable with your child staying out late or your child doing something to other children, be okay with it. Say, I'm making a choice that, honey, I love you, but here's the deal. I don't think it's good for you. I don't think I would want you to do that. And now I think, like we said, it's not like maybe. We're making an expectation, a rule, that this is not okay. And from now on, this is Daddy and I discussed, or Mommy and I discussed, that this is the rule that we're gonna expect you to do. This is the boundary we're expecting you to not cross, and we're holding you to it. Right? Now everyone's gonna ask me what? But what happens if they break the rule? Because obviously they're gonna break the rule. I just told you they're gonna break the rule. What do? So everyone thinks, oh, let's punish them. Oh, punish. The crux of parenting is not punishment. The crux of parenting is setting the rules and confronting it when it's broken. I'm going to tell you something. Teenagers, as much as you think that they don't care what you think, and they'll tell you that, I don't care, they do care. They don't want to disappoint you, and the better your relationship is, the more you hang out with them, the more you give them that love, the more you're listening to them, the less they want to disappoint you. So yes, absolutely, build a very strong relationship, hang out with them, talk to them, try to see what's going on. Even if they don't want to talk to you, just try, just show them. The underlying message is, I care about you, I love you, I want to hear what's going on for you, right? So the point is, if you have a good relationship, they don't want to disappoint you. So set the limits, and therefore, they'll more or less stay within the limits. Now, if they break it, confront it. How do you confront it? Anyone that took my parenting workshop knows? 3 steps, actually 4. 3 steps. You broke the rule. It's not okay to break the rule. The rule still stands. You do that over and over again consistently, I promise you it's going to work. It's going to get you more the behavior that we're trying to, now again, is it going to be perfect? No, we said it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be within the limit of the law, as we call it. So, again, your role is set the limits, confront it when it's broken, and step number 4. This is a very important step. After you do that, you want to get out of that. Get the heck out of that conversation, because they are all, their blood is boiling, right? Their blood is boiling. They want to fight with you. We call that externalization. We don't want externalization, because now what's going to happen? Let's play this out. Bobby comes home late. Bobby broke the rule. You told him 11 o'clock be home. Bobby comes home 12:30. You're mad. Bobby comes home, tries sneaking in through the door. He's halfway up the steps. You catch Bobby, right? What's going to happen? Bobby's already, and I'm going to tell you another concept. But Bobby's already waiting for this. He knows what's coming. His blood is boiling. Mommy, and in his head already, he's already thinking, oh, they're going to kill me, right? And now, you're going to go and confront it, right? So what's going to happen? He's going to explode on you. He's going to say things to you. I hate you. You're the worst mom. You guys are not fair, right? All these ways to kind of pull you into this externalized sort of dynamic. They're going to want to fight with you about this now. Now you confront them, they're going to want to fight with you. No. You're going to be a little smarter, and you're going to say, you broke the rule. It wasn't okay. The rule still stands. Walk out. Because what's going to happen is an internalization process. We want teenagers to be stuck with an internal conflict. Baby, mature. Baby, mature. And the more they're sitting there with this internal conflict, that's how maturity happens. You know what, Bobby, you really screwed up. You stayed up, they're mad at you now, what's going to happen, what are the repercussions, right? Point is that they're sitting with that internal conflict, and that's creating a development, and that's creating maturity. Did I mention punishment anywhere in there? No. But here's the thing. Should there sometimes be repercussions? Yes, absolutely. Bobby goes out late. If you set it up properly, like what Etty said, that when that initial conversation, hey, we're going to let you go out. You want to really go out? We'll let you go out. But here's the deal. I trust you. You got to work with us. If you come back late, I can't really trust you. So you're not going to be able to go out late again. Now, if he messes up, you're not punishing him. He caused this on himself. We agreed to this. This was our agreement, buddy. You messed up. That's on you. That's not on me. I'm not punishing you. You messed up. Right? So it's more about that. Now, obviously, yes, it's you could call it a punishment or repercussion, but it's not about that. It's about the rule setting, and it's about confronting them when they are breaking the rule. One more quick point that I love to teach parents about is this concept called superego, right? Any of you that went to school, you guys all kind of may know this concept, but I gotta tell you, it is so true. You yell at yourself. Let me tell you a little secret. Who's the voice in your head when you're a teenager yelling at you? It ain't you. When you're a teenager, that voice in your head is who? Is your mom and dad. And Bobby, it's like sitting there and wagging it. So now, I'll prove it to you. Should I prove it to you? The second Bobby walks through the door, right? You told him 11 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, he's already like, oh, freaking parents, they just, ugh. And they're already like thinking about what you're gonna do. Should I not? Should I not? For an hour, the countdown is happening. It's getting closer to 10. And you're just in their head, man. You're just there. You're in their head messing with them. 11, they're like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna listen to them. I'm gonna listen to my parents. I'm gonna stay out late. And they stay and they stay and they stay. And they're already going through this turmoil of like inner turmoil of having to listen to you in their head for so long. What happens? They walk through the door. You may not even care that they came home late, right? You'll be like, oh, Bobby, how was the party? Leave me alone! What's wrong with you? What's that all about?
Because they were hearing you the whole night.
You were in their head. You were annoying the crap out of them for 2 hours. And that's why when they walk through the door and they already had you in there for 2 hours, that superego, that voice is working. So you think it's not working? I promise you, you all are in their head. Okay? So use that to your advantage. Set some great limits. Negotiate with them. Talk to them. Obviously, be fair. If they're saying, hey, this limit is not fair, I say listen up to a point. Listen up to a point. Yeah, you have something to say. What is it? If it's valid, great. Talk about it, no problem. If it's not valid, again, walk out because they're just going to want to externalize. I call these parent traps. They'll call your names, profanity, you're the worst mom and dad, you guys name it, I don't care. Oh yeah? What are you going to do about it?
Nobody else's parents do that.
Nobody else's parents do that. I'm not coming back. And we go nuts. You're not coming back alive. You better promise me you're going to come back. You go crazy. Like, you want that resolution. But they're not going to give it to you. I'm in control. I'm not going to give you that. So what do? They hold on to that. But the point is that the superego thing works. Use it to your advantage. Listen up to a point and be able to walk out. When you need to walk out, confront them when the rules are broken. And hopefully that was helpful. Teens are very entertaining, let me tell you. That's why.
Stay on.
So, like everyone's been saying so far, we want to understand our children. We want to understand what they're going through, and like Etty said, it's very hard for parents to really understand the exact world that their children are living in. Thankfully, myself and many of my colleagues, we've had the opportunity. We've been working in this field for long enough that we've really got to see these kids for enough of a duration, and they trust us enough to come tell us all the things that they may not tell their parents. And one of the things, a common misconception that parents a lot of times may have, and even students also and teenagers, is that summertime. We're talking about a summer panel. Summertime is a time of no stress, right? There's no more academics. Summertime is it's this vacation, 2 months, no school, no structure, right? A lot of things. They start to as parents, we start to get a little bit nervous because what's going to go on, and as teenagers are like, what's my next 2 months going to look like? Is it just going to be 2 months of partying? What's it going to look like? And what I want to point out is that misconception is completely wrong. Why? Because there's so much other stressors in their life besides for their academic life that these teenagers are going through. And I can tell you firsthand from many students that I've worked with over the last few years, if it's not an academic issue, they will find a reason to be in my office, whether it's a friend issue, whether it's a parent issue, whether it's a personal issue, whatever the issue may be, they will always have stressors. And unfortunately, in this day and age, all of that is blown up really out of proportion, because now it's not that, oh, I go home and the boy or the group of girls didn't invite me. Now it's like I have to see it. I have to live it while they stream it on their phone or post it the next morning or send Snapchats that night. Whatever they're doing as a child, as a teenager, I now have to live this, and all that stress, all that pressure right? As I think Raquel mentioned, is they're not fully developed yet, and they're going to make the wrong choices because of all these stressors. Oh, in order for me to fit in, I need to go out and go to that party, and I have to drink because that's what everyone else is doing, and I can't make the right choice because I have to fit in. I have to be like everybody else, and I may choose to do the wrong things. And so many times I have teenagers tell me, like, I didn't really want to do that, but it was everybody else who sort of not made them do it, but influenced them to. Yeah, I wanted to have fun. Everyone looked like they were having fun, so I went in and I had a few shots, and then a few shots turned into 10 shots, and then 10 shots turned into throwing up and ending up on the bathroom floor. Right? It's not something they want to do. It's something a lot of times that the stress that they deal with, forget academic stress, the stress that they deal with from the day and age that we live in, those are things that are, again, not forcing them. These are things that are influencing them to do the wrong things, to make the wrong decisions. And as parents, our job, of course, like everyone said so far, is to guide them. Our job is to show them the right ways, and our job is to make sure that yes, they're going to mess up. We know they're going to mess up, but we have to teach them how to learn from that, how to get better from that situation, because that's, we all messed up as kids, I'm sure. I can speak from my own perspective, and that's what helped me learn. That's what helped me get better. Yes, I had my parents by my side. Yes, I tried to find the right people to talk to, but we all had our mess ups, and our kids are going to mess up, and that's what's going to make them better. So I wanted to also give you guys, along with that, I wanted to give you guys a few, I guess you can call them techniques, different things to look at, different things that you can encourage your teenagers to practice a little bit more in the summer. Number one being social supports, right? Like everyone said, teens have a lot going on. They think a lot, they see a lot, they do a lot. There's so much going on in their minds that if we don't help them get to the right people, whether that's us, whether that's a parent, whether that's a rabbi, a teacher, anybody who they can feel comfortable talking about, that's just going to get pent up. That's just going to sit there until one day they're just going to blow up and everything's going to go all over and it's going to look like a mess. What I found is that a lot of times parents don't have that skill, and it's okay. You guys can learn it. That's what we're going to, that's what we hope to teach you guys. Get them to somebody. I've had so many times where a parent will call me and say, hi, can you please talk to my son? He's going through A, B, and C. I'll sit with them in the room, and they'll just throw everything out there. And I'm like, wow, how do you feel? And like, that felt great. I never really had the opportunity to talk about these things with people. And I really, I would love to talk to people about it. So the first thing is encourage your teenagers to talk to people. Again, that could be anybody. If they're not comfortable with you right now, find a therapist, find a mentor, find a teacher, an older sibling, someone, anyone who they can feel comfortable with and get those stressors and those feelings off of them. You will see it'll make a huge difference in their life. And again, I've seen a lot of times progress, even a few times. Even a few days ago, I had a girl walk into my office in Mag and David, and she's telling me, I'm so stressed, my dad told me this, my dad told me that, and I'm like, okay, and we worked through it, about 5, 10, 15 minutes, and at the end of that time, she was, okay, everything, I feel much better now. No, I promise you I didn't do anything besides for just hear her out, and maybe, give her a few pointers, but for the most part, she just felt good to just get it off of her chest, just to get it out there, and somebody hears me, somebody is willing to listen to me, and they walk out feeling like $1 million after that. Another thing that's super important, helps us deal with our stressors, is making sure that they're taking care of themselves physically. Of course mentally, but physically as well. The summertime, they don't sleep a lot, right? They'll be out, like someone said, till 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They like to, there's no rules. I don't have to be up necessarily the next morning so early. They're going to get less sleep, right? And I'm sure a 21st century idea is that the same way if we don't charge our phone overnight and that phone is dead in the morning and you cannot do anything with it, that's how the kids are going to feel the next day. Their brains are not working at full capacity if they haven't slept. Just like kids, we need to sleep at night so we can recharge that battery. So it's so important for us to encourage our kids. Yes, it's hard, be in your bed and be sleeping at 1 a.m. or else, like Radson said, there's only so much we can do, but we can encourage them, we can influence them, we can teach them, hey guys, listen, I want you to be at full strength tomorrow, I want you to be good, I want you to make the right decisions, you gotta get some sleep. Of course, with physical care comes eating, right? We wanna make sure they're eating healthy, we wanna make sure they're putting the right things into their body. And the third thing is exercise. It's hot outside, it's good time, there's no excuses for, oh, it's freezing, I don't want to go out there. There's so much opportunity. Even go walking outside, go on the boardwalk, go here, go there. There's so much opportunity for exercise. Exercise is a huge stress relief. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, any client tell me, I was feeling so stressed and under so much pressure, and I went for a walk outside and I felt 100 times better. Or I went to the gym and I started lifting weights and I got my best workout in. And then again, they feel better after they do that. So again, social supports, physical care. 3, and probably a really important one, is their technology management, right? We want to make sure that we're encouraging them, we're influencing them. Again, I don't like to use the word force. I don't like to use the word control, because at the end of the day, we cannot control them and we cannot force them to do anything that they don't want to do. So our jobs, like Ratzon said, is to be role models to them, right? We want to make sure that they're taking breaks when it comes to technology. You're going out for a little bit, maybe leave your phone home, you're going out with friends, okay, try and have a thing with your friends that you guys all put your phone away. I've heard so many times, even from teenagers, that they'll go to their friend's house, maybe one of the moms, obviously talk to them beforehand. I think it works well with girls. They'll tell the girl, when your friends come, why don't you all give me your phones? I'll hold them inside and just socialize between yourself. Again, make sure they're okay with it. Have the conversation before. And I've heard many times that the girls love it. Wow, we actually spoke to each other. We actually looked at each other and had a meaningful conversation without, let me look down at my phone and let me see what everyone else is doing. No, teach them to enjoy the moment that they're in. Unfortunately, technology takes us away from that moment. Our goal is to teach them how to become more in the moment. So breaks from technology, it will really help them. Teach them, or encourage them to have new hobbies. The summertime is a great time, the days are long. They don't necessarily have schoolwork after whatever they're doing. If they're working in a camp, they're going to come home at 5 o'clock. Yeah, they'll be tired, but encourage them to find a new hobby. Encourage them to find something outside of technology. Maybe you want to bake something. Maybe you want to cook something. Maybe I want to teach you how to make, certain things. Or a father that comes home and sees his son, let's go play basketball in the driveway for a little. Or let me teach you a little bit about business, right? Just side topic for a second. I can't tell you how many boys come to me and were like, why can't high school just teach us how to do business, like how to do taxes, how to do credit cards, how to do all this? And I'm like, that's great. And that's why I encourage the parents, and especially the fathers, to teach your kids about those things, because they want to know about it. If you give them a topic that they're interested in, they'll sit with you, they'll talk with you. And again, make that a time where there's no technology, that you can talk to them. And that way you get their attention, they're getting your attention, and everyone feels like I can do something. Again, less technology usually coincides with less stress. Next thing I wanted to talk about would be teaching them about social media etiquette, right? Because this is a huge pressure that many people have. Social media is unfortunately one of the most, in my opinion, and I'm sure many other people's opinions, it's one of the most dangerous things out there. Yes, there's a lot of good in it. I'm not going to deny that. There's a lot of marketing that gets done. There's a lot of businesses that get started. But unfortunately, there is a downside to it, which is that there's so much on it. It's so overwhelming that our teenagers are coming home with their undeveloped brains, with not understanding the world around them, and seeing, we were talking before, when, myself and Jessica, about the whole thing about gambling these days. And all of that, I'll tell you, that I see if I'm browsing social media, is this guy placed a $10 bet and won $10,000, and this guy placed this bet and won this much. And for teens, it's like, oh wow, it's that simple? I can do that? Right? There's so much that is out there from social media that's so hurtful to our teenagers. As a parent, we're like, yeah, well, that guy's crazy for gambling and for putting all that money down and for risking so much. But the teenagers, they don't see it. They see it as they're in this little short-term mindset kind of mentality, and they won't see what we see. So helping them understand the etiquette of social media, of how much it can hurt. But again, we're not telling them not to use social media. We're teaching them how to use it healthy. You want to start a business on it, that's amazing. You want to post about, fun things that you like to do, that's amazing. You want to get something started? do all of those things, use social media healthy. But if you're going to use social media to put yourself down, oh, this person looks like this, oh, this guy has this much money, oh, this person does this, I'm not here, I'm not there. If they're going to use it in that way, I think it's important that we encourage them to shy away from that, to make sure they're not judging themselves based on what they see. And of course, helping them understand that what they post is permanent. As much as, no, I deleted it, as much as, Snapchat, they only let you keep it for 10 seconds, right? Unfortunately, none of that is permanent. I'll give you a really quick example that just actually happened a few days ago. There was a baseball player who actually plays for the Yankees, and he started off the season, I think it's his first or second season, he started off amazing. He had all this fame, all this success in a very short time. Somebody went into his Twitter account, found tweets from 10 years ago, right? I think he's a young kid, I think he's like 24, 25. This is when he was like 14, 15, quoting song lyrics of things that are, in this day and age, and of course that day and age, are inappropriate. And for about 2 or 3 days straight, it got talked about constantly. 10 years ago, he was, again, not justifying what he did, but he was 14 years old, clearly wasn't making the right decisions. Maybe even in that time, it wasn't so negative. It wasn't looked at as such a bad thing. He's quoting song lyrics. It's not like he meant to offend anyone. And for 2 days straight, even possibly longer, that's all they talked about. Should he be suspended? Should he not play baseball anymore? Again, we have to understand, we have to teach our kids that what they put online can hurt them. They're 14 years old now. We don't know how, we hope they're all successful and really successful in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. But with all the rise of technology, we don't know how that can be used against them. We have to teach them that, you're running a Fortune 500 company in 10 years from now. One tweet, one post, one anything can literally destroy an entire thing. You spent 10 years building something, it can literally be destroyed with one tweet, one post, one picture, something that somebody happened to find. Because why? Because they don't like the success. And this is an exact message that I give to my students when I teach them about proper use of social media, is that you have to realize that everything you can and will be used against you, right? Like the famous saying. So I hope I was able to give you guys a few tips and some insider on really what our teenagers are thinking, and a few tips on how to help them navigate these stressors, to give them, again, not a stress-free summer, but a less stressed summer, where they're making the right choices, they're doing the right things, and ultimately making parents, us as parents, making us proud. So thank you very much.
Okay, so I think that a common theme we were all talking about here is the lack of structure, right? In the summertime, these kids are not in school all day, so they don't have that built-in schedule that they have on the day-to-day basis during the year. And when we hear risky behaviors, a lot of the times we don't really think about the topic of bullying and cyberbullying and how it really is a risky behavior that our kids do get involved in the summer, particularly because of the lack of structure, right? These kids are not in school, so they're not really scared of the people in charge, like a unit head or like their counselors, right? Their counselors are teenagers, so they're not really scared of who's gonna call them out on it or who's gonna get them in trouble, because really, what are the harshest punishments of bullying in the summertime? Being out for the day, sitting in the unit head's office, right? Like they're not so scared of it. So I want to just make like a highlighted point tonight that bullying and cyberbullying does not take a summer vacation. So even though it's something that the kids do deal with during the year, it's also something that they deal with in the summer. And it's actually a little worse in the summer because of this lack of structure. So the summertime can make a child feel more emotional because all of a sudden, all the kids are hanging out, everyone's all together by the pool, by the beach, or they're going to parties, right? And then there's a lot of exclusion, which actually hurts a child's feelings, right? They see people posting about it, a lot of the group chats talking about it, like everyone talking about these parties for days. And that one child that didn't get invited or didn't want to invite them for a specific reason, all of that can really hurt our kids' feelings. So I think that in the summer, that's definitely a big thing for them. So the most important thing to realize here is that this lack of structure, we need to make sure that we, just like everyone here said, we are the support in place for them, right? Because they don't have the usual people that they see in school, their principals, their teachers, their therapists, right? We are the ones that they see and are the ones that they confide in. So the first most important thing that we need to be is to be there for them, right? So how do we help as a parent? How do we make sure to hear our kids out when something, how do we notice these little warning signs? Like, what are the warning signs of, is my child being bullied? How do I know if they're being bullied? How do I approach them, right? But we want to first see the little, like, I would say like hints of who is being bullied. So usually the kids that we see that are victims of being bullied are the kids that are afraid to go to camp, the kids that are afraid to ride the bus all of a sudden. Maybe they're afraid to use the bathroom alone. Maybe they're afraid of being alone, period, right? Because bullying is more likely to happen when you're alone. So we see these little things, these little trends happening. And bullying as a whole would lead to being fearful of doing things on your own, feeling depressed, feeling lonely, feeling all of these mixed emotions all of a sudden that maybe you didn't feel beforehand, right? And it's not easy to see your child going through all these different mood changes that we see, or even like the other physical warning signs of like maybe you see like a bruise and you don't even know how to approach your child, like, oh, maybe they fell, but really there might be more to it. So we have to really piece these puzzle pieces together and help our child with these different warning signs. So the mood differences, the avoiding social situations and social interactions, like all of a sudden, like I said, they don't want to go to camp, or they don't want to go to a friend's house, or they don't want to go to a party because maybe someone looked at them a certain way, someone said something not nice to them, like, oh, we don't want you at this party, don't come, right? Even though they were invited, now all of a sudden they feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go, maybe people really don't want me there. And also another warning sign is the feeling anxious or feeling like a low self-esteem, right? So maybe they're a little bit more on edge now, like everything ticks them off now. So it's paying attention to all these little cues of how to tell if your child is going through something and when to step in. So when you approach your child, you don't want to say, are you being bullied, right? You want to say, okay, how have things been? How's camp? How's school? Who do you hang out with? Who do you sit with? Who are your friends this year? Like, did you make new friends this year? Right? You want to try to leave the questions a little bit open-ended so that it doesn't also like incite a certain like or trigger certain feelings, right? You want to make sure that you're approaching it in the right way. You can say, oh, you know, I heard a mom telling me about so-and-so and this happened in class. Do you know anything about that? Like, what's going on, right? You want to try to be as vague but also as specific as you can be in a way that doesn't trigger anything or doesn't make them break down all of a sudden. You want to try to get them in a calm place, in a safe place in order to really connect with them. So what do you do as a parent? What do you do to help your child that's being bullied? So the number one thing that I always tell even the students that I work with is never ignore the bullying, right? Never teach your child to ignore, oh, don't worry, it's going to go away. Oh, don't worry, next week they'll forget about it, right? Never teach them to ignore the bullying. Encourage them, rather, to seek help right away from a counselor, from a parent, from an aunt, from an uncle, from a sibling, right? From somebody. Encourage them to seek help right away. The second thing is never blame a child for being bullied. No one ever deserves to be bullied. Even if they made some sort of comment that might be held against them. That does not mean they need to be bullied, right? And we want to show them that. We want to explain to them that no one deserves to be bullied. No one deserves to be treated this way. No one deserves to be left out. The third thing is, like I said, don't assume that this is normal, right? It's not normal to be bullied. It's not, I mean, just because it happens a lot more often than it should, it's not normal. And it doesn't just go away. So never treat it like this is a normal thing and it's just gonna disappear. The fourth thing is, as angry as you may be that someone is bullying your child, don't encourage them to fight back. So whether it's verbally, whether it's physically, whether it's even over text, like don't encourage them to fight back. Give them the proper coping strategies and the techniques to deal with the bullying, as opposed to being the fighter that we want our child to be, right? We want to instill this independence that we've been talking about. We want to instill this maturity and responsibility in them, but we don't want them to be the bad person back, because we know what happens when it's a back and forth situation, right? It doesn't end well. Number 5, if you can identify the bully, try contacting the parents. So if it comes to the point where it's really like, you know, it's a while, it's been going on for a while, the kid's coming home crying every day, it's really affecting them across the board, and it's been getting worse and worse, speak to the parent, right? Tell them, hey, how can we work together? How can we try to make this better for both of our kids? I get it, your kid doesn't want to be my kid's friend, that's fine. But let's try to fix this. Let's try to put an end to this. Let's try to just speak to our kids together separately and just explain to them that this is not appropriate and it should not happen this way. And the last thing is never worry about whether or not you're going to embarrass your child by intervening, right? A lot of the times our kids will tell us, no, Mom, don't call them. No, don't tell them. Don't call the school. Don't get the school involved. Don't tell anybody, right? Because they're scared. Like, oh, you're such a baby. You told everybody. Oh, you're a tattletale. You told the therapist, right? Don't be afraid of embarrassing your child, especially when it comes to like a situation where they might be in danger, right? Even if it's not physical danger, more of like an emotional danger. You see your child's going through a lot. Don't be afraid to step in, right? Do it in a calm way, do it in an appropriate way, and do it in a way that shows them how to stand up for themselves too. So, right, we said we want to give them those coping skills. We want to give them those strategies and techniques of how to stand up for themselves so we can model that. Just like we've been saying, the modeling thing is a big deal here for our teenagers. Same thing goes with bullying, right? We want to model the behaviors of how to stand up for ourselves and how to know when to ask for help and not to be afraid to ask for help when we really do need it. And I think that one of the most important things with bullying, specifically in the summer, whether it's cyber or like emotional, physical, verbal, we want to just try our best to be there for our child in this time of lack of structure, right? Because this is a time where they're free, they want to be free, they want to have fun, right? But this is also a time that things do come up that may not come up during the year, and that may not get the consequences that they would during the year, right? You're not going to call the principal in the middle of the summer and tell them, oh, this kid that goes to our school did this to my child in camp, right? It's not so likely that that'll happen, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be taken care of. So I think that kind of like wraps up the bullying and cyberbullying, and I'm going to pass it on to Jessica.
Thank you. I'm actually going to steal a little bit of what you said in terms of, you know, bullying doesn't take a summer break. Obviously, I'm speaking on substance, alcohol, and gambling behaviors, which also does not take a break in the summer. So obviously there's no structure, as we all mentioned, in the summer. There's a lot of free time, a lot of fun time, but again, these behaviors are happening all the time. So I just wanted to share some tips with you all on how to speak with your children about alcohol use, substance use, whether it be marijuana or nicotine or any other drug, and especially now with gambling becoming more and more of a popular topic, how to speak to your kids about that, especially as the summer comes. The first thing I want to make clear is that there's absolutely no question that your child will be exposed to these things. I mean, as Susan mentioned before, it's not my kid, it's not my community, my kid's a good kid, they do well in school. The reality is that they are exposed, and it's just being aware that they are exposed and how to talk to them about it. I would love to think that they're not exposed, but the reality is we have to target them where they're at. So just some tips on initial conversations about how to start that conversation with them. I think, as most people mentioned, is creating a supportive environment for your kids so that they feel safe enough to share with you, that they feel they can come to you. Obviously, you're modeling, like the word modeling has come up many times tonight, but you as the parent are modeling their behaviors, right? So you want to create an environment for your kids that's supportive, that is free of judgment, free, that they won't be fearful to come to you, that you're going to yell at them and punish them. Open it up and ask them like what they know about these things. Just kind of explore with them. Don't come at them with lectures about drugs are bad and alcohol is going to lead to this, and if you start experimenting at a younger age, you're 60% more likely to be doing this, right? Like, how many statistics do they care about? They don't. It's really just coming at them with just you're there, you want to be there like on shoulder to shoulder. Like, what do you know about this stuff? What's your thoughts on it? Are you experimenting with it? Try to avoid yes and no questions like, hey, did you ever try drugs? Did you ever try alcohol? Because it really closes the conversation. I think you mentioned also having an open conversation is obviously going to lead to better conversation. So I think the most important thing is avoiding that lecturing and fearful coming at them with a negative tone where why would they want to come to you? They're not going to come to you if they think every time they do, they're going to get yelled at, they're going to get punished. You want them to feel safe coming to you. You want them to feel not afraid. All the times I don't know about you all, but how many parents say, well, if you do this, then bad things are going to happen and you're going to end up in, doing all these horrible things. You're going to fail out of school. Like, you start scaring them into not doing these behaviors when the reality is they don't work. They go in, it's so great. I see like there's $50 free play in my email. Let me go put some money in the, it's so easy to make some free money, right? Like all these things that you as a parent are saying, your kids are sponges. They hear everything and they're more likely to do it. If a rough day means a glass of wine, then a rough day means a glass of wine, right? They just learn those behaviors. So just be aware of that. I think it's also important to look at different grades, right? Like there's different expectations for all grades, right? Your kids are in high school. There's different expectations for someone coming to 9th grade and someone going to senior year, right? I think it's important to be aware of the world, that it's changed tremendously and the expectations have, unfortunately become very different. So I just wanted to go through, obviously I work in SAFE, so I see a lot of people coming in, whether they're from the schools or they're just kind of coming in on their own. But just some things that I see as the high school students. The kids going to senior year, unfortunately it's become very normal that if you're going to a party, whether it's in the summer, all these pool parties, I don't go to Deal ever, so I only hear about it, but there's alcohol there. It's just the expectation that the kid is drinking, right? Like there's no question about it. It's not like, oh, maybe I'll drink, maybe I won't, maybe I'll smoke pot, maybe I won't. It's really like normalized going to senior year that parties will have these things, unfortunately. So even more so, it's important to have a conversation beforehand of like preparing for the fact that, again, as parents, not to pretend it's not going to be there, but what to do if the kid is struggling and if the kid feels like they want to drink but maybe don't want to drink and they're being pressured. But the reality is a 12th grader is going to have alcohol at their party. It's just the reality, unfortunately. Going to 11th grade, I'm going to go backwards in high school years, so it kind of gives an understanding of where, it's getting earlier and earlier. But going into 11th grade, the way I see it is that they're experimenting more and more, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that they're drinking and they're smoking and they're juuling and whatever they're doing. But they definitely are experimenting, and it's very common, these 11th graders, 12th graders, that these are what they're doing. I think 9th and 10th grade is a little challenging because it's earlier on in their life, right? So someone who's in 9th grade or going to 9th grade, the expectation is there shouldn't be alcohol where they are, right? Like they shouldn't be exposed to these things, not exposed, but they shouldn't be drinking and smoking and gambling. But the reality is that unfortunately nowadays, especially with the changing of the world, they are seeing it, but they're not as likely to necessarily be 100% doing it, right? They're just experimenting, maybe more for peer pressure, maybe they're being bullied into it, maybe they're seeing on social media, they're being, I dare you to do this and I dare you to do that, right? Like on FaceTimes and social media things, and everyone's kind of like challenging each other to try these things and do these things and pressuring and bullying. So throughout high school, if it gets younger and younger, if you see it happening, just keep that in mind that the younger they do start, there's definitely more of a likelihood that they will develop some kinds of addictive behaviors in the future. I know I mentioned don't talk about statistics with your kids, but I'll give you all a statistic, opposite of what I told you not to do. The younger someone starts using, so a teenager who's regularly using any type of substance, alcohol, marijuana, anything, is 68% more likely to develop an addiction in the future, as opposed to someone who waited until 21, 22 years old, when that risk reduces to like 2%. So that's a massive difference, because as someone mentioned earlier, the brain does not stop developing until, 25 at least, right? So these teenagers are really undeveloped, and they're just acting with what the kids are telling them to do. I think that I'm gonna just add in that the scariest part, obviously, is, you know, obviously in 12th grade I mentioned it's normal that there's alcohol. I think when it comes to gambling, we all know sports betting has become legalized. At SAFE, we've definitely seen a massive uptick in the gambling addiction field, and as people are it's more legal, kids are gambling probably like in middle school at this point, so the expectation of gambling has gone down to like, you know, it's 7th graders. So just some things to notice about the gambling, because it's a newer topic, it's not as understood. People think it's, you know, it's normal with fantasy sports and free plays and whatnot. Just be aware of certain signs and symptoms. If your kid's ever asking for your credit card, if they're asking for more and more money, it's like you just gave them their money but now they need more. Kids are asking for social security numbers to open up apps and websites, and they're spending more time on their phones, they're downloading things. I mean, we've seen it all. You know, people, again, asking for your social security number, I would say stick with the boundaries that everyone else is mentioning and try not to give your social out or your credit card, or just, again, have a conversation of what do you need my credit card for? What do you need my social for? Because the reality is that kids are very tempted by the free money that's coming into their account, right? Like $100 free play, I can make $5 million, and it's very, very thrilling to be able to make a lot of money in a short period of time. But again, it's very, very concerning because it's happening at a very young age. So just be aware of their phone use, their isolation. Are they downloading more and more apps? Are they spending more time in their room? Are they not hanging out with their friends as much? Are they much more into, you know, how much money? Are they checking everything all the time? Are they investing in this, not investing, but are they checking the stocks and the sports and the teams and the fantasy stuff and all that? You know, gambling is not lighter than addiction, than alcohol and drug use. It's something that's really becoming a big problem. And again, in the summer with less structure, there's less of this, again, you can never really fully monitor, but there's less of this seeing what's happening because they're in camp or they're friends and at pools and everyone's kind of playing and doing and, you know, so I just think it's important to have those conversations with them in a supportive way and be very open to what they have to say and make it a safe place, because the safer they feel with you, the more likely they're going to come to you and talk to you about it. And we created a guide here to talk to your kids about it, starting the conversation. So I mentioned some of the stuff here today, but feel free to take one from the back, and you can have more tips on how to speak with your loved ones about any of these things. But with that, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about other risky behaviors.
Thanks, Jessica. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm very intimidated here because everyone here has so many degrees. I have 3 little letters after my name, EMT, but it carries 25 years worth of history. And I've watched for 25 years how pretty much every summer it's getting worse and worse and tougher. And the parenting skills that you're all learning here tonight are just beyond. I wish I knew a lot of this when I was a lot younger, and you should take it all in because these parenting skills really can help save your children. To give you an example of the kinds of things that we see in the summer, alcohol is beyond. It's everywhere you turn. Saturday afternoons to Saturday night, all night long. Sometimes we'll have an ambulance 2-3 times at the same house. And I once had a parent, the host, telling me, okay, take them right away. Take them out of the party. We don't want to ruin the party. Just take them away. Meanwhile, they're all drinking. And the host needs to know. And all of you need to know that if you're going to make a party, you're liable. If anything happens to any of those kids in that house, you're liable for alcohol poisoning, and God forbid something's going to happen one day where we're really going to have a tragedy. Some of the things that we see, and Hatzalah is on a big campaign right now for safety. Right now, I don't know if anyone has seen the helmet videos that we put out. Kids are on scooters, electric scooters, skateboards, electric skateboards, and the like. And they're not wearing helmets. Now, you can get the best orthopedist in the world, and you'll fix any bone. But if, God forbid, you have a brain injury, it's the most delicate part of your body, and it cannot be fixed. Very often, you have traumatic brain injury. We have a young boy that's right now in rehab because he got hit by a car. He turned right into the street. Car hit him. He went flying. And even with a helmet, you can get very, very hurt. Another big safety video that's going to come out is about fire safety. We never had this before. Last summer we had 5 people that got burnt at fire pits. I mean, I want to be sensitive. I don't want to say anything too graphic or too much. If it really touches anyone here, I apologize. But bonfires with the young teenagers are really very scary. And I saw it on a video. They were pouring gasoline, squirting it in, and the fumes. If you ever went to a gas station, you're near your tank, and you see the fumes, all those fumes can explode. And I think 4 girls had burns to their hands and their face, because they automatically went like that, but it was not quick enough. And we took 4 girls to the hospital. Years ago, fire safety to me meant firecrackers and all the 4th of July works. We had 2 kids that had to go by helicopter to another state to get to a burn center. Pool safety. We're going to put out a video also in June about pool safety. Very often we all go to people's homes. We don't know the address. We have no idea what Hatsalah's number is. You may know Brooklyn. I can't tell you how many people in Deal call Brooklyn thinking they're calling Hatsalah in Deal, or they don't even know the number, and our dispatchers have to then call Deal. There's going to be a sign at every pool. We're going to furnish it, Hatsalah's number, 531-9988. My address is blank. Because you could be 50 people at someone's home, and no one will know what the address is other than the host. Deal's not so big. You don't have to know the addresses. You know the homes. Some of the things we run into, I just want to run through. Obviously, drinking is an issue. Drugs are definitely on the rise. Many of our young kids are driving at 17 years old. They're getting into a lot of accidents, and they're all distracted on their phones in the car. Of course, when I was younger, we never wore seatbelts. Today, I think it's a given. Everyone wears seatbelts, but I've seen people that were driving that went into a tree or went into into a wall. They ended up flying forward either through the windshield or ending up in the back seat. So seatbelt safety absolutely is a must, and we need to teach our kids that helmet safety is the same. Young kids, even on a regular little scooter, I tell them right now, a little boy came up to me the other day and said, I saw your video, but do I have to wear, my mom wants to know, I still have to wear a helmet with my little scooter? He's only 6 years old. I said, absolutely you have to wear a helmet. Because at 6 years old, if you get in the habit, when you're 12 or 14 or 18 and you're riding a scooter that's electric, at least you're going to be covered. And you're going to make sure that it becomes your second nature. I can't tell you with all the pressure that we heard about tonight, bringing up our children is very tough. And it ends up, out of high school, you end up getting a lot of psychiatric disorders at times. With all the eating disorders that go on, or with all the pressure that the kids are under, I can't tell you how many kids fall into pretty tough psychiatric issues. I could say a lot of it during COVID, got compounded, but we've been taking a lot more people to Cornell. A lot of young people are being admitted to rehabs. And the overdose, I don't have to tell you, it's happening. You may not hear it, but overdoses happen all the time. And unfortunately, we even had suicides in the community. So it's just, I hate to bring all that around, but just take everything that they're telling you and really take it to heart. Communicate with your kids, active listening, everything you learned tonight, all the points really can help save your kids' lives later on. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our panelists. You guys are amazing. You're awesome. I've been doing this for years and I learned a lot tonight, so thank you so much. We have a few questions that were sent in beforehand. Ratson, this one for you. How do I set limits for my child when they're telling me all their friends are allowed to do it?
Great question. As I said, sometimes being an unpopular parent is the right thing to do. I understand that, again, what I said before, it's a big test for parents because you want to be the cooler parent, you want to be permissive, and you should be to some extent, but it has to make sense. So if they're telling you all their friends are doing it, again, if you want to maybe do some of your research, are the friends really doing it or not? ask casually, some of the other parents, hey, by the way, Saturday night, what is your kid doing? Are they going to that party? I heard there's a crazy, and if they're saying, no, my kid's not going, I would never let. Oh, okay, so not all the parents are going. Okay, now you're starting to get, some telltale signs that not really so true. And if you don't feel comfortable with it, I always tell parents, there's an element of trusting your gut to some extent. And if your gut is telling you there's something wrong and something off, put your foot down and be okay saying no. So, and when they tell you, but you're the worst, you could just simply say, I love you, and I just think that it's really not best for you, and my job is to to try to keep you as safe as possible, and you can validate them also. Validation works, try to work something out with them to do something else or whatever, but you don't have to necessarily give in just because they say, hey, all my friends are doing it.
I'd like to add also that find another parent who has similar limits and boundaries as you, and support each other. If your kid is saying, oh, everyone else is allowed, I guarantee you call a few parents, either they're too afraid to tell their kid no and they don't want to be the only one, or they already told them no and their kids are not, being upfront about it because they don't want to be the kid who, is the only one who's not allowed to go. But definitely find other parents and cooperate together, and there will be others who are supporting you.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a question
sure.
on that? But then, doesn't that risk your child going behind your back and then saying, okay, you're not gonna let me do it, you're gonna say no, and you say no, let's say 1 or 2 times, and then they just do something sneaky behind your back, and oh, well, I should have maybe just let him go,
Yeah.
because now he's
Well,
not
let's put it
gonna
this
ask
way.
me, he's gonna do it anyway.
Right. That goes back into the piece that I spoke about regarding control, right? You're not going to necessarily be able to stop them from going behind your back. Is there a risk of them going behind your back and doing it? Yeah, but the risk is a lot less than if you tell them, hey, go. Because if you tell them, hey, go, then it's 100% to go.
I think
Right? So I'm saying there's an element of okay, I think I kind of put it in 3 categories. There's things that you're comfortable with, and then there's things that you're really not comfortable with, and then there's that gray middle ground that sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, and you have to. That's the part that parents really struggle with, is what's that gray middle ground. Sometimes you should go a little bit above your comfort zone to be able to let them go a little bit and individuate a little bit and give them a little bit of trust and a little bit of leeway. That's part of it. So if it's something that you have 0 tolerance for and you think it's really not good, yes, then you want to put your foot down. And will they go behind your back? Sometimes, yes. But like what I said before, is you may have to confront it and work on that piece with them.
I also want to add that a lot of the time when I hear from kids that they are going behind their parents' back, it's the parent that is saying no all the time. It's the parent that has good values and wants their kid to be safe, but is that authoritarian? No, you're not allowed. I'm not going to allow this. You have to report to me. Your curfew's 11:30. That are unreasonably strict in their eyes. That really does lead to okay, eventually I'm just going to go. I'm just going to figure out a way to go.
Right. I just want to add to that. I call that working relationship, and it's so important to have a working relationship. Where if a parent, if you don't have a working relationship with each other, they're just going to overthrow everything. So it's so important to invest in a working relationship, and that's where that gray area comes in, where it's hey, there are things I may not allow you, and that's my line. And there are things that I will let you, even though I'm not so comfortable with it, I will let you, at times, and that creates a working relationship, and that'll, it won't eliminate it, but it'll make it a lot less.
So I understand we all heard a lot of information, and a lot of it was very heavy. So, rather than go to the questions that were sent in, I just want to know if anyone from the audience has questions. We'll address those first. No? Okay. So I'll go back to some of the ones that were submitted before.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Sure.
I want to say, feel free to, open, if you have anything on your mind, feel free.
Let's say gambling, how you said it's now starting in 7th grade. Aside from communicating with your kids on what it is, what else can we do as parents? What do we do? Do we tell them, no, you can't gamble? Obviously they shouldn't gamble, but if it's there, how do we deal with it? As parents, what should we do?
Right, I think it goes back to similar to what Roxanne just said, is that obviously you can only control so much. Do I think that there should be times, as a parent, it's up to you how much of their phone you want to look through and how much of that you want to really get into, because I don't necessarily always think that's the best answer. But I really think it could be having, like, kind of talking to them about what apps they do have and seeing what they have, limiting their access to their, you know, if they're especially in the 7th grade, you have more control, so to speak, over what they can see. Again, you can't fully control the fact that they're going to do it if they're going to do it, but you can set limits to their screen time. You can have them put their phones down for a certain time. You can look at what apps they have. You can monitor how much money you're giving them, how much money they're getting, right? Because you can't really gamble without money. So where are they getting the money from? So it's coming from the parents, usually. And that's what you can talk to them about the specific behaviors that are part of the gambling, right? Downloading apps, money, credit cards, all that stuff. They usually need a 21-year-old's identification to access these things. So they're putting in your information, right? Or a parent's information. So they don't necessarily know that unless they're asking you for it, right? Unless they have credit cards, but then you can limit how much money you put on those credit cards. So you can target those things, which is part of the boundaries that Ratson spoke about earlier. You can discuss with them boundaries that make sense, but at the end of the day, they're gonna experiment, and having a conversation, you're right, is not the answer only, but just knowing that it's there for them to come to, it can at least somewhat alleviate, you know, your burden of controlling it.
So is it, I mean, are we allowing or are we condoning, okay, or even helping them balance? You can gamble during football season, but online you can't. And then you could do it with your friends, but in a child, like, are we saying that because it's out there that we should allow it to a certain extent, or is it a hard no?
So I think that all these behaviors, especially the ones I'm talking about, but I think with everyone, I think that just because it's happening doesn't mean you have to condone it, right? Just because it exists and that they're experimenting doesn't mean it's go you, gamble when you gotta gamble, right? It's recognizing that it's happening, we don't condone it, because you're a teenager and you're experimenting and you're probably gonna do it, pointing out the risks of that. And again, just because it's happening and that they're experimenting, it doesn't mean you as a parent agree with it and that you're letting them do it. You don't have to give them money, you can limit how much they do. It's not like football season, fantasy sports, okay, you can do that, but you can't go to, you know, FanDuel and put in a bet there, right? So like you don't have, that's not really that's not like a limit you need to set because there's no condoning it. It's not like, yeah, do gambling. But being aware that it's happening and just how to address it the way you can, which is, again, the financial piece and all the financial piece is coming from you guys. I mean, I don't know how much money y'all give your kids, but they only get money from parents, right? If they're doing other things, get money.
sneakers.
What?
Sometimes they sell sneakers.
Right, so if they're doing any fun and creative ideas, they get money. Yeah, I mean, again, but
Use
like,
your money to buy the first
you as a parent need to be,
You're investing your money.
yeah, like if your kids are investing in 7th grade, I mean, that's a conversation that you probably should
If
talk
your
to them
kid's
about.
clothing is disappearing,
Yeah, like, I mean, exactly, if they're in 7th grade and they're starting to sell sneakers, I mean, it's a conversation of where are you getting the money to buy the sneakers, to sell the sneakers, right? So it's just having those conversations.
Jessica, if I could add one thing.
Sure.
Remember, these gambling companies are giving away free money, and they're not
Yes.
giving it away for no reason. Because they know, once they get you, they get you. And I can't tell you how many marriages and lives and families were destroyed from gambling. So you have to explain to your kids that they're giving you free money, but I'm telling you, they know what they're doing. Look at Las Vegas.
Mhm.
We think it's all great, it's glitz, it's all fake. Nothing's real. And you have to be careful. That's what you have to explain to them from a young age, that it's just not free for a reason. They're gonna get you.
And to add to that, I mean, again, if they're using your information, you yourself may be getting emails that they're actually seeing a $50 free play, a $1,000 free play. Like Alan said, they're not just giving you money because, they're not giving you money just to lose money. They're giving you money knowing that you're gonna win, you're then gonna come back. So it's just kind of talking about that, the cycle that you're probably gonna win the first few times. It's free up until it's not free, right? The hotels are gorgeous. The ads are targeted to kids knowing that they're going to play. It's free, there's no risk, but the risk is going to come 5 times down, and that's all stuff that you as parents can see if it's your information.
I have a
Can I
question.
jump in?
So just a sibling dynamic, some kids need a little more boundaries than others, right? Then how do you play a dynamic where this kid needs more boundaries and the other kid, you trust them more, and the kid that needs boundaries is, you don't love them, you don't trust them, you don't love them.
Anyone want to take some?
I mean, I would say, and I want you to jump in also, because I want to see if we match. You know, it's a tough one. I mean, are they different ages? I'm assuming they are.
Let's say all teenagers.
If they're twins, you have a big problem. But if they're different ages, you know, you have to explain the concept of trust and them earning your trust. And you explaining to them very clearly that I'm making boundaries that per each child that I think is fair and is gonna, you know, help them be safe and that we think makes sense for them. It's not a one size fits all, especially if you're different ages. So you're a different age than your sibling. And you know, each person has their own strengths and skills, and basically, like, you know, I have one son who's very, very wary, so, but he's younger than the older one, so I wouldn't let him cross, you know, streets at the same time, because he may not, you know, be as wary and be as careful. So he understands that, you know, there's a reason why I need him to be more careful, and he has to sort of earn that before, and the other one didn't cross streets yet, but probably he's gonna learn to do it a little bit earlier. So that's what I would say. What do you say?
Totally on the same page, and really just the fair is not always equal, like, you know, and I think the rationale piece helps a lot there. The concept of earning trust and the rationale and engaging in it's all about engaging in the conversation. They should understand what it is. I'm gonna also put out there boys and girls and the different rules and the like double standard and it's not fair, like that comes up a lot also, like why am I allowed to do this? Why am I not allowed to do this? My brother's allowed to do whatever he wants. That's a big topic, I think, especially in the community. So it's, again, something to address, something to think about, and also, if and when there's room for compromise, to remember that, like, make that compromise. We want to say yes, we don't want to say no. So if there's an ability to have that give and take in that working relationship, I love that terminology, then go for it. And if you're standing by it because you know that that's the right thing for each child, saying, like, you have to trust me, like, I know you, I love you, and I'm doing what I think is the right and best for you.
I want to add two more quick points. Number one, validation. That you could validate that, hey, it really doesn't seem so fair, and I understand why you feel that way. I really get it. It does look like it's not fair. Number two is sort of like to piggyback off what she's saying, is if there's a way to get them to earn that trust and get what the other kid has, put that out there for them. Hey, I would love for you to do that. Again, we want to promote and develop individuation. We want to promote and develop maturity, right? Making maturity, meaning make good decisions, more of things you need to do more than what you want to do. So if there's ways that they can show that they are more mature, put that out there. Hey, I would love to let you do X, Y, and Z, but here are the things that I would need to see in order for you to earn X, Y, and Z.
I have a question for you. You said whenever you see the kids, for example, the teenagers coming in with an overdose, and because you work in the community, so you kind of know these people, the parents, the next time, do you see the kids again? Does it scare them the first time, being in the hospital, going through what they had to go through? Or they just, at this point, they don't care, it is what it is, and they keep doing it over and coming to the hospital once
Depends
in a while?
on the situation. Some of them are, you know, going through trauma and they can never get out of it. It definitely is traumatic to go to a hospital. So it definitely does wake people up. Very often on Purim, we'll send people to the hospital, even though they probably could stay home. But you know something, with a 14-year-old boy that drank too much, he's never going to drink again if he goes to the hospital. So.
Thank you.
Just maybe on that, is there like any sort of like speaking events for teenagers? I'm just curious what's out there for teenagers to hear some of this stuff. Well, I'm saying like public.
I'm not sure you're asking.
I'm asking Alan
Okay.
from Hatzalah. Like, is there like some
I would
sort
think
of like,
SAFE would cover that more
SAFE
than
is-
cover that? Okay.
Safe
Well,
is-
schools cover.
We're working on creating like more events in the summer to teach these, to show people, but again, not to scare them into.
Not to
don't
scare
drink
them,
because
but
you're
maybe
gonna
like
have-
personal experiences that people
Yeah.
can,
Right,
like
we are-
letters or things that could be.
Yeah.
We are trying to create things for the summer to have personal
Amazing.
experiences,
Wow.
but also I think
Please
that,
share.
yeah, I think also it depends on the person, like the experience they're going through, and it's exploring with the kid why they're drinking, because some people don't get afraid of a hospital and some people do, and right, there's
Right.
probably different reasons why one does and why one doesn't. So just having, again, like, talking to the kid and not just assuming they drank and they're bad and now they're, you know, in trouble. It's kind of understanding, well, maybe one person's traumatized by something, maybe they're being bullied, maybe they're not. So it might not scare them, and just being prepared for the fact that not every kid is going to be afraid of this, what we all think is terrifying.
I have a question from a parent that's related. Alan, this is for you. What are the repercussions for my kid if they think their friend is in trouble and they may need help, but they're scared to call because they were doing something wrong?
Absolutely make the phone call. Make the phone call. There's good Samaritan laws. You're not going to get in trouble. But if you love your friend is drinking, driving, you don't want them to get into an accident, make the phone call. Absolutely, you will not get in trouble.
And really try to emphasize that with your kids, because I can't tell you how many times they hear in my office, like, they were too afraid to call, they just didn't call. Like, thank Hashem, usually they figure out a way, they call the mother, they put in, and eventually sometimes they call Hatzalah. But their gut and their instinct is not to call for help, to try to figure it out themselves. Somebody's passed out on the floor, nonstop throwing up, and they still won't pick up a phone. They're also, don't forget, their judgment is impaired in the moment if they've been drinking, so they also can't think super clearly. But the more they hear it and the more they know that also that they could call you, and the more that they have an out and they have it drilled into them and know that it's safe for them, the better decision making. Like, don't wait till the way it's like, don't wait till the middle of summer to have this conversation. Don't wait till you're in the middle of a situation where you don't know what to do, to, you know, for your kid to have the tools to know what to do. So the more you plant it, they need to think about it before in order to know how to do the right thing when they're in it.
Yeah, and when they're in it, you want to just give them a message also like, I'm much more concerned for your safety in that moment than anything else. So if you're ever in a moment, I don't care if it's 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, call me and there's no questions asked. I'll pick you up, I don't care where you are, and if you're going to get into a car with someone who drank, I would rather you call me and wake me up, and I promise you won't get in trouble. Because that just sends a message like, we're here for your safety, and that's the most important thing. And they'll appreciate that, and they'll feel secure with that.
I think just to touch on that also, I think it's on the, like, you as parents, like, to earn your, like, the kids have to trust you, obviously, and you have to trust them, but obviously so many parents, like, they have those statements like, call me whenever you want, you're not in trouble, don't worry, and then the kid calls and, what are you doing with this person, right? So it's really like, it's like how many times do parents like say this statement and then they just don't abide by it? So the kid is not going to call, and so I think it's really about earning your kids' trust in a sense. I know that it's a backwards thing, but they have to know that they can call you and you're not going to freak out, and you're set boundaries, like, this is not okay, but we're here to help you, not yell at you for being in the situation.
Talk about it the next day, don't talk about
Right,
that.
exactly.
The time of crisis is not the time to make this a teachable
Right.
parent.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, we're just managing crisis.
And you said to tell them to not make this, or you said to not make the decision in the moment. I found it helpful, Mageno came to speak to the school, and kids identified safe adults. And to have the conversation beforehand, like, they're thinking of the people I would call, oh, I called Uncle Sam because this or this, and to just have the conversation so that they have a go-to in the moment.
Love that, thank you, yeah, that's a very concrete, like, and the more concrete we can get the better, again, the better go-to it'll be in the moment. Love that, thank you.
Sometimes as parents, we're afraid to speak to our kids because we feel like we're bringing this idea to them. Believe me, your kids know it. And whatever you think they don't know, they're gonna find that on their phone. So, you know, you need to address it with them. You need to have these conversations before they're in that situation. Because once they're in that situation, you know, everything goes out the window. I know I was a safe teacher for many years, and with my 8th grade girls, I literally would, one of the lessons is modeling for them excuses that they can use the first time they're handed a drink at a party and they don't want to take it, but they're too embarrassed to say something. And it's literally like ridiculous statements like, oh, I'm taking allergy medication and I can't take I can't drink on this medication. And when I go over it with the girls, they're like, oh, Dr. Shmuel, we would never drink. No, we would never do this. We're good girls. And I tell them, you know, thank God right now you've never been exposed to this. When you're in high school, at some point you will be. And when someone hands you that drink and you don't want to take it, I want my face to pop into your head. And I want you to see my face and say, oh, Dr. Shmuel told me this is what I should say. And I can't tell you how many times I've actually had students come back to me and say, Dr. Shmuel, someone handed me a drink and your face popped into my head. And I mean, it sounds silly and it sounds like common sense, but when your kids have these tools and they're in that situation, they use them, they really do. And it's up to us to give them the tools. I'd love to thank my panels, this was amazing, thank you so much. I'd like to thank my chair, Rena Asher, she makes my dog music. be with us here tonight. If you have